Okay, at this point you should have all of your drawing tools. You should have your drawing board so that you don't get weird rubbings. Is that better? Can you see that better? Put one on, one off. You should have your worksheet. You should have a scrap piece of paper, a ballpoint pen. Your graphite pencil should be sharpened, and your dark colored pencil should also be sharpened. Now today what we're going to do is we are going to shade, like blending shading with all three of these media. Okay? So we're going to try to get gradients. We're going to try to get crisp edges with all of these. All right? So the first thing that I want you guys to do is I want us to go ahead and let me zoom this in. I'm on autofocus, but it's not wanting to autofocus. My joy. Okay, there we go. So what we're gonna do is we're going to use our graphite pencil. And remember last time we did a gradient, we tried to make it blend. Everybody remember that? We tried to make it a smooth gradation. Today we're gonna do the opposite. Today we're gonna try to be able to see a crisp edge and a difference in value in between each of these boxes. So you can look up here, I'm gonna do it with you, but you can also just do it with me, all right? So I'm gonna start off, and remember when you're doing a dark value, you're not supposed to go in as hard as you can. Why are you supposed to build it up in layers? What happens when you go in as hard as you possibly can with dark values? Does anybody remember? No, it's not about the mistakes, although that is something to know. Yeah, Rainey? It stretches your paper out and makes it wrinkly. So we don't want to damage the paper. So instead we're going to use the side of our pencil. We're going to use the tip of our pencil for the edges so that it's nice and crisp. We're going to use the side of our pencil to fill it in. And we're really going to work kind of scumbling. Do you guys remember scumbling? It's kind of working in circles. Oops, you guys can't see. So I'm moving my pencil in circles. Go different directions, build it up, use that side. Try to get the darkest value humanly possible in number 1. If you do not start with a dark, then your range of darkness, you're not going to be able to get 9 values. Okay? If you don't go as dark and as light as you can, you're going to be stuck in the mid zone trying to make 9 values out of the same value of gray. Sounds like a nightmare. So nobody's perfect. You can absolutely use your eraser. I want these to be clean and neat though. So if you do go outside of the box, we're working on our craftsmanship when we do these worksheets as well. You can raise your pencil and use the tip for the edges, but then go back down. So I think I've gotten mine as dark as I can, and you can tell graphite is very shiny. Do you guys see that on my paper over there? It's like winking at you. But it is very, when I move it out of the light, it is very, very dark. Okay? So now when I go into box number 2, I'm gonna try to build it up the same way, starting at like a nice medium. But I'm going to try to get as close to that first value as humanly possible without losing that edge. If you go too dark, you're going to lose the line that is going to separate box 1 and box 2. We want to keep our values clear and crisp. When you guys were using the charcoal to shade and it looked out of focus, it's because you lost your edges. So you lose your edges when there's no contrast. So we want to go as dark as possible, but we don't want to go so close to the first value that we can't tell the difference between them. And we want this box to be consistent. There shouldn't be any gradation in value. It should all be the same value. And it really does help to have the picture right above. I think I have gone as dark as I possibly can without losing that line. If you find that you lose the line, you can use your pencil's eraser to kind of tap. Just bring up just a little bit of that graphite. Look how dirty my pencil tip is. You guys can tell that, but it's really brought up just a lot of value. If you go too dark, you can easily tap it away. All right. Now that I've got 2 there, I'm going to go on to number 3. Make sure that you go as dark as you can without losing that edge, that contrast, that line. This is how you feel lines and not see lines. This is it. It's creating contrast that is crisp, that is not blurry, that has a very distinct transition from one value to the next. So anywhere when you're drawing, if you're drawing a dog, or you're drawing an envelope, or you're drawing a piece of paper, you're drawing a rug, anywhere that there is an edge, there is a line, and those edges are usually meant to be crisp. Feel free to move your paper around as you scumble to get a really clean craftsmanship. And I'm really pushing my value to make sure I can get it as dark as I can, or else I'm not going to have enough values to fill in the rest of our values. And I think if you look at mine, that's looking like a nice gradient. I could see each box. So I am on to box number 4, getting one step lighter, starting lighter than I intend and building that darkness. Remember to scumble, remember to use the side of your pencil. You can really put value down a lot quicker if you're using the side of your pencil versus the tip. Tips are good for edges. If you go outside the box, just clean it up with your eraser. We're looking for really clean craftsmanship. Now at the 4, I'm at like 4. 5 is in the middle. Okay, so 4 should still look like a dark value. I'm not quite there yet, so I need to add just a little, maybe a little bit more. I don't want to get too close to box 3. Now on mine, box 3 and 4 is becoming fuzzy. Everybody look up here for 1 second. See how this transition right here is not as clean as these ones? So that tells me that my values are too close. So I can do one of 2 things. I can lighten number 4, and I can go back in with the tip of my pencil and really crispen up that transition there. On number 3, I make 3 a little bit darker. Now the darker values are easy compared to the light values. You are about to find out that it becomes a lot more difficult to get those lighter values. Now notice how I'm holding my pencil, you guys. I'm holding it at the end as I move into these lighter values because it's going to allow me to gently put values down. Less pressure, more lightness. It's always good to go at least 2 different directions so you can't see white holes in your shading. It's very normal to see the texture of the paper, but going 2 different directions will help you, go ahead, fill that in. Yeah, these lighter values are much more difficult to keep that crisp edge. I need to clean off my eraser because I gotta lighten this number 5 a bit. Now the good news is that box number 9 gets to stay the white of the paper. That is the good news. And you might find, like, I'm a little bit afraid that I might need to go and make 3 and 4 a little bit darker so I have room for 5. Remember, we want a clear edge. We do not want it to look out of focus. We want it to look sharp. I'm going to go on to box 6. And this is where it starts. Box 6, man, you really got to be light. We still got to get 3 more values out of this. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna skip to 8 and try to make that as light as humanly possible, just so I know I can fit 2 values in between. Be very careful trying. I just use my hand to wipe away stuff. I would prefer you blow, because you don't want the oils of your hand to move all this graphite around. It'll get really messy really fast. So I'm really having to push my values darker because those lights are difficult to get. Plus, I have kind of a heavy hand. Oh, we just stick it on that table. Thank you so much. I'll bet that's the red underglaze.
Probably. It's quite heavy.
That would be awesome. So now I'm really having to play with 5, 6, 7, and 8 to try to fit all those values in there. Try to make sure your box is consistent. I'm finding that I'm naturally trying to make a gradient so I can see those crisp edges. Is anybody else doing that? Don't do it. Push yourself to try to really get 9 values. Right now my 6 looks darker than my 5. Still lighten it up. That looks better. Sierra, would you do me a favor? Pretty please. Would you open that brown box that she just brought? And if it's underglazed, would you put the black and silver Sharpie sticker on it? That brown box. It's like a little
Yeah, I know. I
retouch
see
it.
it. I'm just trying to find the
Here's
stabby
this.
thing.
And you'll need Sharpie and this and black duct tape. So put bright red or whatever the color is on the top, and then put the, just look at the other ones you can see. Alright, I think I've got it, you guys. I'm not gonna lie, that 6 and 7 is mightily close.
Ooh.
Is it
New
red?
brighter formula, pink.
It's pink?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know. Did you order pink?
I did, but I was hoping it was the red.
The red is exciting.
That's not cute. Okay, how many of you guys feel like you got a nice gradient? Or you at least did your best? That's good. Are we all at box number 9 at this point? So you might not quite be done. Can I get everybody to drop their pencils just for the moment? I'm going to go ahead and demo the next section. I want everybody's eyes facing forward, bodies facing forward. What we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and remind ourselves how to do this gradient from dark to light. Okay? So this is a reminder of what we're doing. We're going to use graphite pencil. Actually, let's skip that one. Let's use that for something else. Let's go ahead and try this one. It goes from dark to white, from white to dark. Oops, you guys can't see it. Right here, this bottom left one. So the white is in the middle. So what's really going to be important here is that I've got my pencil kind of raised a little bit so I can really use the outside. And I just want to be aware that I'm getting really, really white in that middle. So I'm just going to try to start putting in some value that changes. And I want to try to really go different directions so I can get a nice crisp top and bottom. Okay? You guys can go ahead and do that with me if you feel confident. Or if you're not feeling confident, you can just watch what I'm doing and kind of build your skills by observation. I'm going to do the left side, and then I'm going to turn around and do the right side to meet in the middle with the white. So on this one, we are looking for gradient. We're looking for it to go from black to white without being able to tell that there's any change happening. It should look totally fluid. Once I think I got the left side, I'm gonna go to the right side and start building that up. And I'm just gonna, because I'm right-handed, I'm just gonna flip my paper upside down and do the exact same thing, just on the other side. And And remember, look at your reference and really observe it and see what you're supposed to be trying to recreate. Make sure the outside edges of your box are crisp. And that if you go outside the box, which is very normal, that you just touch it up. But it's also a good idea to push yourself to not shade outside of the lines. Imagine that you're shading like a little bitty face and you're trying to do the nose. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to shade outside the edges of that nose. And for most of us, this box is bigger than any noses we'd be shading. Because we're not really working with large pieces of paper in this class. So at this point, I think I've pretty much got it. I'm comparing. I could maybe get a little bit darker in this area in the middle. And just, it's good to be cognizant of the fact of what you're learning and training your muscle memory right now. You're training your muscles to create gradients that transition seamlessly, but to also maintain crisp outside edges. It's really what this worksheet is all about. Now, that's probably one of the easiest ones on here. The next one becomes much more difficult. I'm going to give you guys another minute on the first box, and then we'll take a little break so I can demo the second box. Would you put one of them out and the other ones in the underglaze thing shelf? I think it's the third one. All right, can everybody go ahead and put their pencils down? This one is a new important situation. Okay, I want everyone to really watch how I'm gonna do this. Put those pencils down. I want your eyes and your faces facing forward. Everybody? Okay, so the first thing I wanna do is observe this box right here. Is cut diagonally, and that is our line, right? That's the line that we wanna keep crisp. Okay, so I'm gonna start by I'm gonna use my colored pencil on this one, you guys. I'm gonna start with a black, oops. Make sure you don't push too hard. Now remember, colored pencil, you can erase it a wee little bit, but I wouldn't do, like the little bits like that I just got, those can probably be erased, but it is rather permanent, okay? So just beware. Now, when you have a line, the way to keep it crisp is to have a contrast, right? One side of that line has to be darker than the other side of that line. Now, what is difficult about this one is that it is darker on the top over here, but it's darker on the bottom over here. Notice how in this area right here, that edge does become a little bit ambiguous. It's not very obvious right in the middle, but we can still feel it. Everybody seeing that? So what I'm really gonna do here is I'm gonna take this line and I'm gonna fade it darker above. And when we use colored pencil, you guys, we're not gonna color in a color, like I'll shade in a color this color, and then I'll shade in a color this. we're going to use it just like graphite pencil. Okay? So I'm going to take this and know that somewhere near the middle, I need to be at the middle gradient. And I'm going to be as light as I possibly can into the white on the left side. Okay, so I'm just going to, just like we've been doing with graphite pencil, the colored pencil does feel a little bit more waxy. There's a little bit more drag as you're coloring, but I actually find I like that. It's less slippery. Okay, so everybody go ahead and just try the top half of this triangle. We're going to try to eliminate on the top the line by using the dark values, but notice how my bottom, I can still see that outline. Okay, so we're gonna fix that once we do the bottom in a moment, but go ahead and try to get a nice gradient from dark to light on the top triangle here. Try to go slow. Remember, we're scumbling. We're going two different directions. We're making this gradient really soft and transition. We're using the side of our pencil. You can move your paper around if you need to get a better angle. Build up the really dark values, but really try to see what your colored pencil is made of. Like, how hard can you go and how dark can you make it? You're going to get more values the darker and lighter you go. How many of you guys noticed that on our last project, you kind of stayed, your values kind of stayed the same? Like there weren't really bright brights and there weren't really dark darks. It was kind of, everything was a little bit in the medium zone. We're really trying to push ourselves to darker darks and lighter lights. Now, for this project, we are using the dark color pencil just because it's a little bit easier. Remember, if you have darker darks, it gives you more value. If you were trying to do this with a yellow colored pencil, it doesn't even go dark. You know what I'm saying? So you'd only be working with this part of the range of value. You'd be working with 6 through 9. You really wouldn't be able to get a 1. Okay? So you're going to get more value the darker the color when you're talking about colored pencils. Now, do not forget to leave the white of the paper. The white of your paper is one of your values. Okay, for 1 second, everybody just stop and look up here. I want to point something out. I need everybody's eyes up here. This is crucial. Notice how on the dark value area, can you see my outline that I started with anymore?
Not really.
It's gone. It's faded into those darker values. Notice in this area over here, I can still see the outline. See how important a light line is going to be when you're using light values? But I went ahead and made it dark because on our reference, we've got dark values on the bottom side. Okay, so now we're going to switch this over and we're going to do the exact same thing, but this time the dark values will be on the left and the light values will be on the right. Okay, you guys, go ahead and try to finish this one with colored pencil. Notice that as I start filling in the darker values on the bottom, my line has disappeared. I can still feel it. I can feel a transition in value there, but I cannot see it. It's not a hard outline like it was a moment ago. When you guys are working on your journals, this is how you're going to use colored pencil. So anytime you want to, this is our only colored medium. So anytime you want to have color in your journals, you're going to use colored pencil and you're going to use it with value, which means that anything that you color in is not going to be colored. It's not like you're going to do like purple here and red here and just color it in flat. It needs to have value and realism to it. Try to keep those edges crisp. Once you go into colored pencil mode, it's not really that erasable, so you really want to be as neat and tidy as you can. Does anybody know what the C word is that is neat and tidy? What is that?
Clean.
No, but good guess.
Crisp.
It's how well you use your tools. It's one of the things I always grade you on. Yes, it's your craftsmanship. It's how well you use these tools. So our tools here are the paper and the colored pencil. Yeah. So you're just stretching. Alright, I'm going to give you guys about another minute or two to finish up anything that you haven't done that I've done. So I've done 2 of the boxes down below, and I've done all of the shading values from 1 to 9. Well, 9 was easy, it was white. So let's use about 2 minutes here to get caught up wherever you can. The next thing that we're going to work on is ballpoint pen. Now, if you're done, something that you can do is you can open your pen, and there's usually, if it's new, you'll have a little jelly at the tip, so you can take that tip off. The other thing that you do with ballpoint pens is before I start, I like to hold them in my hands because my body heat will get the ink more liquid and less likely to clog. Does that make sense? You can also roll it and create friction, and that is going to make for a nice glide when you're using a ballpoint pen. I also like to store my ballpoint pens. Well, in here I store them flat, which is not bad, but if I'm going to put them in a cup, I like to put the tip down so that gravity is keeping the liquid near the tip. That ink stays down near the ball. And since these are new, you're probably gonna have to wake them up. You can even, oh dear. Are your guys' working?
No. Mine has updated.
Just keep frictioning. This will work. These are brand new. There we go. I like your hair.
Thank you.
Are you guys ready? I see a lot of people frictioning. All right, let's go ahead and move on. There's a lot of us ready to go. So everybody get your pens working. It might take a little while. Mine took quite a while. Believe also. Everybody go ahead and make sure that your pen is working. Hey, Monica.
It's okay, my
All right, you guys, let's all look up front. For the moment, we're going to take our worksheet and put it aside, and we're just going to focus on this white piece of paper. Everybody go ahead. We did this before with, I don't know what medium we were using, but we're going to practice a sphere. Okay, and we're going to put the light on the top right side. So our light source is up here. Okay, before we get to that, I want you to practice actually shading. Oh wait, you know what? Before we do that, we have to figure out what the difference is between a ballpoint pen, an inkjet pen.
I have a calligraphy pen.
Well, we'll get into calligraphy another day. Okay, so these are the different types of pens right here. This is a ballpoint pen. It is the cheapest pen on the market. It literally has, if you look at it really closely with your eyes, the one I gave you, it has a ball on the end. And the ink goes into it, and as the ball rolls, it displaces the ink onto your paper. Okay? That is a ballpoint pen. If you look at this one, this is a Sharpie pen. It is felt tip. Okay? It has like felt. The cool thing about a felt tip pen is that it's always going to put the same amount of ink down. You cannot get value with a felt tip pen. Okay? You could put lines farther away from each other. That can create the illusion of value. But every line that I draw, no matter how lightly or how hard I press, is going to give out the same amount of ink for the most part. Okay? Felt tip pens also, when you hold them in place, they tend to bleed out. Everybody see how I wasn't even moving my pen tip? It just bled out. Okay, that is not what we're using. The other type is an inkjet pen. These are kind of the more popular pens on the market. They I don't even know if they have a ball in them or not. I have a feeling they do. But the mechanics on the inside and the type of ink in there makes it so that it rolls out almost like a felt tip pen. No matter how hard you press, you're going to get the same situation. Ballpoint pens, the cheap pens, go ahead and practice with it now, are so amazing because they're so cheap that you can really, really start to create value by how hard you press. When you think about that, that's pretty amazing. The fact that ink can have value, because ink is liquid. Okay? So these ballpoint pens are pretty spectacular. So go ahead and just practice like I'm doing and try to go back and forth. And remember the video that we watched? We're looking for a one-way line. We're not looking for a zigzag line that goes back and forth. That is not what we want. We do want this. Now I'm finding that my pen is not, it's kind of clogged, I guess. So I'm just going to roll it a little bit more and hopefully it'll move a little bit. But honestly, I don't hate the fact that it's clogged because it's making for lighter values. And lighter values are usually the hardest to create. So I'm not mad at it. Now, with pencils, the graphite and the colored pencils, we really wanted to go two directions. We don't really want to do that with the pen. Okay, I could a little bit if if it was like a really dark area, possibly I could go different directions. But you really kind of want to get one direction, and you want to do it so finely that you can't tell that there is a direction. So go ahead and just practice creating a gradient with the ballpoint pen. There's something on my drawing board. Make sure your drawing board's clean. So I'm just doing like vertical lines again and again. I'm not doing a zigzag. I'm just layering these lines. That's hard to see. Okay, once you do that, we're going to move on to the sphere itself. So if the light is coming over here, the lightest area is probably going to be near the top, okay? I like to work my way, especially because I have a heavy hand, I like to work my way from dark to light. Okay, so I'm going to start in the area at the bottom left corner that is going to have the most shadow. And because I want this to feel round, I'm going to kind of get my direction going round around that edge. And I want to disguise the outline, right? Remember, we shouldn't feel the lines. We shouldn't see them. We should feel them. Now, is anybody noticing what's going to be the really difficult part of this sphere with the ballpoint pen?
Getting clogged up.
Well, that is a difficulty. But what's going to be the hardest part of the image, the sphere, to actually shade? The white area. Especially on the outside edge, because I should have drawn my lines a lot lighter. I'm going to have a really hard time disguising that outline in the light areas. So that's a good example of how I should have really drawn my line a lot lighter. Remember, it's not a zigzag. It's line after line after line. And the reason, you guys, the mechanics of the reason why you don't want to do a zigzag is because you think about it, if you're rolling the ball the same direction all the time, then it's continuously having ink ready to go. But if you go back and forth, there's going to be areas on your ball that doesn't have ink on it. Does that make sense to everybody? So you want to always go forward with the ball the same direction so that it's always got fresh ink on it. Now at this point, you guys, we're working on ballpoint pen here today, and we're working on shading and value. This is another media that you can use, another medium that you can use in your journals. Gel pen is an inkjet pen.
Yeah.
It is not the same as a ballpoint pen. So you're not going to be able to get the values that we're getting here. And the good news is, you guys, ballpoint pens, they're so cool, they're so dark, they're so dynamic. You can make amazing art with them. It's literally the cheapest art supply you can buy. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing what you can get for the money on a ballpoint pen. I mean, a pencil is also pretty cheap, but I think the quality of pen work is just so dynamic that it really, you get the most bang for your buck with a ballpoint pen. Okay, so if you're feeling good about your values on your sphere, you can go ahead and move on to the next one. Now this is, I want you guys to go ahead and try this top one, the simple gradient, with just the ballpoint pen. Okay, that's gonna kind of warm you up some more. Get your movement going. Remember, it's one direction. And honestly, these are the cheapest ballpoint pens I could possibly find. So you might want to, I mean, some of you might have ballpoint pens, but I find most school kids have these fancy, nice ones. These are really nice to write with, I'm not going to lie, but they're not great for drawing with value. Yeah.
It's fine. It's certain.
You can use blue. Yeah, that's fine.
No, it was. I got it. No, this one's. No, it was working one off.
You guys are shading with your pens. Alright, so really quickly, you guys, I want you to do, everybody look up here, this is going to be ballpoint. And then I want you to do this circle with ballpoint. This one over here, everybody, this one right here with the circle with ballpoint. And then these other three, you get to choose whichever medium you like. So you could do this one in pencil, you could do this one in colored pencil, you could do this one in ballpoint. Try to do 2 of each medium though. Does that make sense? You get to choose which one goes in which space. But I do want you to do the circle one on the second line because it's easy. I want you to do at least one easy one with each medium and one difficult one with each medium. Okay? Everybody understand what's going down here today? All right, I'm going to turn off the video so you guys can chat and we'll put on some music.